Hello and welcome back to another edition of the MerseySportLive podcast. Today we are joined by our reporter James Lee, who has just returned from New York covering the Darren Till fight. James, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, how did you find New York?
Oh, it was unbelievable. Been a UFC fan for about 6-7 years now. So to be able to go to the biggest event of the year, the biggest fight of the year, Donald Trump, The Rock's there. That's how big it is. I guess it's like a football fan going to the World Cup final. So yeah, it was a great trip.
And how come the trip came about?
Yeah, so my first UFC event was I've been trying to go for years, and then my first event was when it came to Liverpool with Darren Till. I went with my dad and my brother, and then after on the back of that he went and fought in Dallas and was like, oh, should we go to Dallas? And it was like Dallas, and then we saw him in London, and then yeah, it just made sense to go and see this one as well.
And did you stay in central New York or did you go out?
No, I stayed in New Jersey. So
how did you find that?
It was alright. It was just a quick train in. Yeah, it was alright.
And did you see any of the sights?
Yeah, so I did all the 9/11 stuff. I actually did a Madison Square Gardens tour, before the event. Got to see the press conference, the weigh-in. So yeah, it was a good trip.
And I just wanted to ask you about so Darren Till obviously was coming off the back of a loss against two losses actually. Again, one against Tyron Woodley, which is he got smoked in.
Yep.
And Masvidal again, which he was expected to win. That was meant to be his comeback. And Masvidal at the time, as everyone said, it's all well and good looking back in hindsight. Masvidal now is like, everyone's like, oh my days, he deserves a title shot. But at the time, everyone's like, oh, Masvidal pushover.
Mm-hmm.
So how important was it for Till to get back into the winner's circle at the weekend?
I'm not sure it was 100% important for him to get back in the winning circle, but he needed to look good. If it would have been another first round knockout, or he wouldn't have impressed and he would have got beaten handily, it would have been like, where does he go from here now? Does he go back down to welterweight? Does he start fighting some middleweights that aren't ranked? It's like it was an important fight. It was an important fight for looking good. I'm not sure the win was necessarily important, but obviously he's ranked number 5 now in division, so I mean, it's basically a new start for him.
And touching on what you said there about looking good, we saw Kelvin Gastelum in his last fight against Adesanya, and that was an absolutely brilliant fight. And Gastelum's a hard person to look good against. He makes it scrappy.
Yeah,
he's not the most. I wouldn't say he's an ideal opponent if you want to make yourself look good. So why do you think Kelvin Gastelum was the fight?
I would say because of all those reasons you just named. It's the perfect fight to say, I'm going up to middleweight. I'm not scared of anybody. And if I beat Gastelum, the rewards are so much bigger, and I think he'll find that out in his future fights because of this win. And
do you think that Till staying at 185, moving up those 15 points, do you think he should stay there? No,
yeah,
definitely.
It's definitely an easy route to the title. Welterweight's probably the most stacked division right now. There's about 10 contenders who are in line for the title. So it's like, at middleweight now, it's like he's one fight away from the title, really. I mean, it's him, Cannonier, Romero, Whittaker's up there, and then we got Edmund Shabazian coming through. Jacare's gone up, Chris Weidman's gone up, Luke Rockhold's gone up.
Costa's injured.
So it's like, if he's not a title fight next, it's definitely one after with a big win.
And after the fight on Saturday night, Darren Till said in the post-fight interview that he had a lot of demons that he was fighting in his head, and that he was making excuses not to go out and fight. Yeah. How well do you think he coped with that?
Oh, well, you saw in the performance, basically. It's not like I saw him and thought, wow, he's feeling the nerves of this. He looked calm. He looked like he did when he come out again in London, focused. But I just think that makes the victory so much better, and it should be talked about a lot more. That this, in March, he was unconscious in front of 15,000 of his own fans. So to come back in the biggest stage of them all, co-main event against people who call Kelvin Gastelum one of the toughest middleweights in terms of fighting him. It's always going to be a hard fight. Probably the hardest puncher in the middleweight division. It's to come back and do that with all the nerves and everything. It just makes the victory all the more better, basically.
And the pressure that he was facing, he was under after back-to-back defeats. Yeah. To cope with the pressure that was under him, it was pretty impressive. Very, very impressive. It's like how do you,
this is the biggest card of the year. Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal, Madison Square Garden, sold out, 20,000 odd people. The pressure's never going to be bigger. But although the pressure was on him, I don't think it was as much as it has been in previous fights, in terms of like when he was headlining Liverpool, he's got to perform, he's got to win. When he's in London, he's got to return and look good against Jorge Masvidal. I would say the pressure was on him, but it was almost expected to lose. So that, I think that probably let him fight how he wanted to more without the pressure, I'd say.
And with as I said, Gastelum's last fight was against Adesanya. Adesanya then went on to destroy Whittaker, and he's the champ now.
Yeah.
Would you not say that, okay, it was only a 3-round fight but would you not say the way Darren Till dealt with Gastelum, kept him at distance, didn't really take too many shots, compared to how Adesanya, who's now the champion, fought Gastelum? Like, Adesanya got knocked down in that fight.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So would you say Darren Till...
I guess a very different fight. I would say that Darren Till did it afterwards, so it's not as impressive. When Gastelum's... When he was on that streak and Adesanya fought him, that's going to be the best Gastelum we've ever seen. So turn around and fight him 8 months later probably wasn't the best Gastelum that fought against Adesanya, but it's still the same. He didn't take any punches. Adesanya made that more of a... Till was very calm and composed, and he didn't push the fight, whereas Adesanya was pushing the fight, which is probably why he got hurt and why he ended up hurting Kelvin a lot. But I would say very different fights, but equally as impressive, I would say.
Kelvin was ranked number 3 in the middleweight division before, and Till obviously unranked, and he's gone straight in at number 5. Who would you want to see him fight next? Do you want to see him fight someone in, your Cannoniers or your Romeros before a title shot? Do you want to see him have a title shot? Do you want to see him have another couple of knocks with top 10 guys?
Well, I did an article for MerseySportLive, which you can see on the website, of 5 fights that could be next for him. But what I'd say is there's options, and that's all he needs, really. I would say that I see that I'm not sure that Adesanya fight will happen next for the belt. I'm not sure he's deserving of that yet. Although Dana loves him, and the UFC always want to bring a star from the UK, a star from Europe, and they don't really have that right now, at least in this part of Europe. Obviously, they got Khabib in Russia and things like that, but there's many options. There's probably about 6 options, I'd say. The one I like the most is probably... I like the Robbie Lawler fight. I think it's a great fight, and Robbie Lawler comes with ex-UFC champion, fought at middleweight for a large period of his career, fought for Strikeforce, Elite XC, World Championships at middleweight. He's got experience. He's an ex-world champion. He'll bring the fight. It'll be a really tough fight for him. But like I said, there's loads of options. As a fan, if I was to keep him away from people, it'd be like, Yo Romero shouldn't be next. Let's not fight Jared Cannonier. But another fight, I'm not sure if you're interested in this, but Edmund Shabazian, I think that's a great fight for him.
That is a good fight.
I think it's like when Till fought Cerrone, it was Cerrone doing him a favour. This young kid who was probably undeserving of someone fighting someone of Cerrone's stature. So I think it could be only right that Darren Till says, you know what, Edmund Shabazian, he's impressed in his last 4 fights, 3 first-round finishes. He's 21. Why not give him this chance to make a name off somebody? And if I win as well, it's another win at middleweight, and I'll probably get the title shot after that.
So out of all those names you've mentioned there, put you in Dana White's shoes for a second. If you were him and you had to say, right, Darren, you're fighting this person next, you have to pick one, who would it be?
Dana White's in the business of making the biggest fights, the most exciting fights, so Adesanya's next. That's what I think. It's like a fight between Adesanya and Till. It's a win-win for Dana either way. It's like he's building Adesanya as this next cash cow. He's the man. He's unbeaten. He's young. Former kickboxing world champion. He finishes fights. He's in exciting fights. But then you've got him against Till, and you're like, well, if Till wins, then you've also can sell Till as the UK fighter. Exciting, powerful, talks well, got a good presence in the UK in terms of marketing wise and things like that. So although I don't think he will do it, it's like Adesanya Till's a perfect fight to sell, and it doesn't even need selling. It's that good.
What would be your prediction for that fight if it did happen?
What would be my prediction for that fight? Yeah, I'm a Darren Till fan, so it's hard to say.
From a neutral perspective.
Darren Till goggles on.
Yeah. No, No, I love Adesanya as well. He's definitely in my top 3 fighters.
Go on, I'm pushing you here for.
I know. It's tough. I think it would go to decision, and I think it would be 3-2 either side. I think it would be a similar fight to the Wonder Boy fight. That's how I'd picture it, in terms of like both are reluctant. I don't think it'd be the best fight in the world. Both would be reluctant, but for striking people, it'd be like the perfect matchup. And
Darren Till, going back to him in New York, he only arrived in New York a couple of days before the fight. It didn't seem to affect him, but do you think he could have performed better if he'd been there a full week?
I'm not sure he would have performed better, but I think it definitely affected him in terms of the nerves and things like that.
Do you think that affects fighters if they don't? Because fight week's it's a big week.
Yeah, it's not something I've ever really seen before. It was like so on Wednesday, I'm looking for him. You normally get the usual things where he's doing media, he's signing posters and things like that. You normally get him around there about Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's like, why is he not here? Obviously, we found out he was having visa issues. I wouldn't say it affected his performance, but I would definitely say that it affected his nerves before the fight, because preparation's key in instances like this. You're always going to feel the most confident when you're prepared, and when you're getting off a plane on. It wasn't like he got off the plane on Thursday morning. He got off the plane at like Thursday afternoon.
And jet lag, obviously, as well. Yeah.
He's got to cut weight. You're dehydrated on planes anyway, flying, so that the water's going to retain itself on you. It's harder to cut weight. I mean, I looked at him in the scales and I thought, wow, like, he doesn't look that far off what he did at welterweight. His face was sucked in. I was like, but maybe that was the flight. Maybe if he got there Monday, it would have been a lot of an easier weight cut. But definitely did. It must be so much stress thinking, I presume I'm going to fight with these visa issues, but are they going to get sorted? Like,
it's psychological as well.
Yeah. In your head, you're thinking, I'm getting, in his head, he's getting ready for war, but it's like, am I getting ready for war? I might not even be fighting. So I presume I would definitely say it contributed to his nerves in the fight.
And he's moved up weight now. Do you think he's at the correct weight for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, on Monday he was on Ariel Helwani's show and he talked about going back down to welterweight, but why? Like, it's becoming it's a good trend that's coming where fighters are moving up and having success. This is a perfect weight for him. He can be big, and like he said, I agree with this. Sometimes he used his power and his size for his advantage at welterweight, where he is very skilled. He needs to use his skills, and he did that against Gastelum. He kept moving. There were so many good things about the Gastelum fight, like even transitions away from the clinch up against the fence. Gastelum's very good if he's got a man against the fence, landing that left hook. That's how he finished Tim Kennedy. That's how he dropped Weidman. That's how he finished Vitor Belfort. Till did a very good job of moving away from the fence, circling. Whereas at welterweight, he might be thinking, well, I'm bigger than these guys. Like I can just take the shots and walk through them. But he was a lot more conservative, and it obviously paid off.
Do you think that was the thinking behind it? I can use skill and creativity rather than power and strength. Yeah,
I think so, and it also makes the camp a lot happier and productive. If he was cutting down to 170, he's like, he's got to train really hard, and then he's not getting enough nutrition, and he's not getting enough. He's not eating. He's not happy, is he? We obviously saw him before when he fought in Dallas. He was like, I'm miserable 3 weeks before the fight, and like that's not how a fighter should be thinking. No. 3 weeks before a fight, all focus should be on the fight, and the weight should just come something that you think about a few days before you're gonna make the weight. So I would definitely say the right move for him to move up.
Not just about Darren Till, but touching on what you said about the weight and how we see a lot of people now moving up in a weight division and challenging for titles, winning titles, stuff like that. There's been a lot said about, as you said, Darren Till at 170. He looked awful when he was weighing in. I know he didn't look great at 185 again, but that's probably, we're going to put that down to a bit of, all the late travel and stuff like that. But do you think going forward, more fighters should fight at more of their natural weight rather than cutting all those pounds? Like, for example, Tyron Woodley. Yeah. He's another one. I know he in the welterweight division, he cuts from about 205 down to 170. Do you know what I mean? That's nearly 2.5 stone. Yes. That's not healthy.
Crazy amounts. Yeah.
Should fighters like him, like Darren Till, all just Do you not think it would be better for them to fight at their more natural weight for health benefits and stuff like that?
Ideally, but you're always going to have fighters who want to get the advantage.
Yeah.
That's what it's come down to, and the weight classes are so separate apart. Like 15 pounds is a lot. I mean, in boxing, you'd say you can get 3 or 4 weight classes in that, and it makes fighters think, oh well, I'm not going to be big enough, and and we have seen it where fighters haven't been big enough, who've gone up weight, who just got bullied and things like that, and people will be looking at that and saying, well, that'll happen to me if I go up a weight, but ideally, something should come in where they have to move up weight. I mean, if every fighter just moved up one weight class, it'd be perfect.
Yeah.
But people are always trying to get the advantage, even if they put things in like a system in place in terms of weight and retention and dehydration levels. Fighters would always try and find a way of getting around it. So ideally, yes, but realistically, probably no.
And also, I was just talking about Darren Till was obviously co-main event to the BMF title fight between Masvidal and Nate Diaz. Masvidal coming out on top, looked sensational for a few rounds.
Yeah, unbelievable.
While it was before the doctor stopped it on a cut. But is that another fight for Till? Do you think he might want, if he is to go back down to 170? Not saying that he should. Would Masvidal give him a rematch for the BMF title maybe?
Yeah. I like this BMF trend.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the belt should stay, but I like the trend because it goes against the system, and it's saying that belts aren't everything to sell fights. Great fights that are marketed well sells pay-per-views, which is what the UFC want. I would like if they went everyone from £145 to 185 or to 170. If you can meet at a weight, just fight. So there's so many great matchups we're not getting because of weight divisions and rankings and things like this. Do away with it all. Why can't we do Justin Gaethje versus Robbie Lawler? Why can't we do Masvidal versus Tony Ferguson? Why can't we do Max Holloway versus so and so?
And it just shows you that the fans aren't really interested in the belt. If you think about it, Usman and Covington are fighting.
Yeah.
Nobody is anywhere near as much interest in that than the BMF.
Yeah.
But the Covington fight is for the main title. Yeah, it just goes to show fans just want the fights.
And in terms of skill, you'd say Usman and Covington would probably beat Masvidal and Diaz, especially Diaz. But in terms of excitement, like why not just do these fights? Why not have Till maybe meet Masvidal at 175 again, or have Till meet so and so, put any name in. These fighters walk around at this weight anyway, so why not do it? It's like Masvidal's at 170 now. If Till would have weighed in at 185 for that London fight, do you think the fight would have gone different? No. So it's like, what? This weight doesn't seem to matter that much. Let's do the fights. There's so many fights for Till. Robbie Lawler was just a pick of welterweights that I chose because he had a history at middleweight. He's not on the aggressive run, but why not bring up Santiago Ponzinibbio? Why not Leon Edwards? Why not just come up to 185 and fight Till? These are the fights that would get fans excited and get them invested in the fighter, which is ultimately what the fighter wants and what the market wants.
Going back to the Nate Diaz fight against Masvidal, people have said it was wrongfully stopped because of the cut to Nate Diaz's eye. Do you think it was the right decision by the doctor? It's a tough one to call.
It's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, you see fights like Tyson Fury. His cut was probably worse. So he's saying if the fight was in Vegas and the commission was different to New York commission, who were only 3 years old in terms of MMA, the fight probably would have carried on in Vegas. But that's not to say that the fight should have been stopped or shouldn't be stopped. That's not for me to say. I don't know. I've seen worse cuts, but I've seen cuts stop for that before, so it's like,
a lot of people were saying that if you're going back on Nate Diaz's previous fights, he gets stronger as the fight goes on. So that was obviously that was stopped, but at the end of the third, was it?
Yeah.
So maybe, the argument could be, Nate Diaz was going to come into it in the 4th and 5th. I'm not so sure.
I couldn't see it.
But I heard a journalist, Nick Pete, say something like, you have to forget about the fighter and not his track record.
Yeah.
Is that cut worthy of being stopped?
Yeah.
So in this case, the doctor thought, he's not thinking, Nate Diaz, it's Nate Diaz, it's a nasty cut, but he always comes back into fights at the end anyway.
Yeah.
So I suppose there's two sides of the coin here. There's one, obviously, all fans, why did they stop that fight? It was a great fight. But then you also have to look at the fighter's safety.
Yeah, definitely, perfectly said. Yeah, I think there is some instances where you have to take it fight by fight though, but in this instance, a cut's a cut. If the doctor deems that it should stop the fight, it should stop any fight in the UFC. So not just pick and choose. Like if it was a prelim card and it would have gone stop it for the main event as well.
Do you want to ask us some questions?
I just wanted to ask a bit about. So sometimes I think I'm in this MMA bubble. That's all I read on Twitter and things like that. So I just wanted to get your opinion. You're a neutral. You don't watch the sport.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not big into MMA really.
What's your opinions in Darren Till and how big he is in comparison to other athletes in Liverpool and in the UK?
I think I heard about him a bit more before the Masvidal fight.
Mm-hmm.
Going into this fight, I didn't really hear too much about it. Obviously, I'm into sport and we do this, and I know bits, but I wouldn't have said that I know too much about him.
Mm-hmm.
As for comparing him to other sportsmen in Liverpool, it's not really diverse in sport, really.
Yeah.
You've got two football teams, which kind of take up most of the headlines.
Yeah.
So, and I think MMA goes down the pecking order a little bit, which is unfortunate for people like you, where like it's your main sport. But I'm not too sure really. I think it's probably because Liverpool hasn't got too many big name MMA fighters.
Well, no, I guess not. But you look at Paddy Pimblett, and he's probably not the biggest worldwide, but he's loved in Liverpool.
Oh, yeah.
I think Liverpool as a sporting city get behind their own.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that people who hail from Liverpool get the recognition in Liverpool, but maybe not outside Liverpool, really. But if you're not from Liverpool, then I don't think people really look at Liverpool fighters and think, Darren Till's an exception because he's such a big name in the sport of UFC.
Yeah. So this is the thing I've been back and forth. It's like for years. I'm like, does MMA get the recognition I would say it deserves in this country? So I'd say things like, why wasn't Michael Bisping at least nominated for 2016 Sports Personality?
Do you think that's the sport though? Because obviously,
I think
it's you're just fighting each other, aren't
it
they?
is,
Do you think that people like? And I'm not saying this.
No.
It's not my opinion. It's just what I think that other people are thinking. Like Sports Personality of the Year. Maybe Tyson Fury got nominated. I think a couple of years ago. But
Anthony Joshua's been nominated.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can argue that case at boxing.
I'll tell you, where's the difference? What's the difference in boxing and MMA?
I know I agree with what you're saying to a certain extent, and I agree that Bisping possibly should have been nominated in 2016. But if you look at the boxers recently who have been nominated, you've got Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
He's a global phenomenon.
Yeah.
Tyson Fury, everyone knows who he is.
Yeah.
There was Joe Calzaghe and stuff. Do you not say they're all a lot bigger than?
I would, but who won last year?
Who was it?
It was on.
Geraint Thomas. What's his name?
Geraint Thomas. Yeah, he was Welsh as well.
I don't know him. It's like so. I would understand if you said Anthony Joshua won.
Yeah, Joshua came fourth, didn't he?
Yeah. So I'd be like, if Joshua won, or Joshua won when he beat Klitschko that year, I'd be like, he's a bigger name, bigger fights, bigger pressure. But when we're having people like, no offense to Geraint Thomas, but I've actually never heard of him before the event. So it's like,
I think he did all right in Tour de France.
So is it on popularity then, or is it on safe sports? Is it on safe people winning it?
That's another argument, I think, because obviously Joshua came fourth, which is it's quite another.
He was nailed on with the bookies to win it as well.
Yeah,
but he's the figurehead for the whole country.
For the sport, he is really for UK boxing.
No,
UK sport.
I wouldn't even say I would say UK sport. Like who else? I mean, we've got Sterling for football, who's like a worldwide player, but then we've got Anthony Joshua. He's obviously before the Ruiz fight last year, he was the heavyweight champion in boxing. That's like people before him, Tyson, Ali. That is the pinnacle of not just not just sport, but like fighting in general.
Do you think that UFC is getting marketed right over in the UK? Because it doesn't get the recognition that maybe it should do over here.
No, but it's also a bit like, so are the mainstream going to report about it? Because MMA's got such a closed-off fan base. I'm not sure how to put it. It's in terms of, it's kind of like a niche sport, and the fans like it as a niche sport.
Yeah. I think it's a bit like boxing in that respect.
But I would even say that. So would boxing fans read, for example, some of the mainstream Daily Mail, Guardian, if they had an opinion on boxing and anti-Joshua and things like that?
Yeah, probably.
Whereas, like, for MMA, if the MMA fans would be like, "What? Like, you're not reporting on MMA. We're gonna read you. You've not been You've done bad on the sport for the past 15 years. Why are we going to start reading your reports now?" BBC Sport do articles and they get names wrong and they get things wrong, and it's like, seen as a bit they don't care about the sport.
Yeah.
But I think the perception is still of what it was 10 years ago, and the sport's changed a lot now.
I think Conor McGregor was a big part of the UFC coming over to the UK, because obviously even though he's not from the UK, but when he came over here and he was Conor McGregor's fighting Khabib, it's massive, Nate Diaz. Yeah.
But I think he hasn't done well. He isn't a positive representation of the sport.
I think it's maybe personality-wise, because obviously he's got a big personality.
Yeah. He's a big seller.
But you'd say, why not? Why doesn't the mainstream media look at Darren Till? This is like one of the best stories. You know, stabbed in Liverpool when he was 18, moved to Brazil on his own, learnt his trade in Brazil, comes back, fights in the UFC when he's in Brazil, comes back, headlines the Echo Arena. Sells it out the quickest it's ever been sold out. Sells out the O2 Arena. It's like, if this was another sport, they'd get so much hype. It's like,
but boxing really.
Yeah.
When Callum Smith got announced he was going back to the M&S Bank Arena, it was
but he
quite well known.
But he doesn't sell it out as fast as Till, does he?
Don't think he has.
No. So
good point.
No. I'm just saying. As in, I was saying this to Paul before. I was saying, where would you rank Till amongst the biggest Scouse athletes? Because I'd have him as number 2.
Yeah. Who's first?
Trent.
All right.
Yeah.
I'd say
Trent globally, people know he's one of the wonder kids, isn't he? For the
young as well.
Yeah.
How old is he? 20?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see you arguing
21,
there.
I think
He's 21.
Yeah.
I can see you arguing there, really.
I would agree as well.
Yeah. Obviously Wayne Rooney, but he's
Steven Gerrard as well.
No, but I'm on about still.
Oh, right, still going.
Yeah, still active now. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
No, not in history. I just mean active now. I would even argue, if Tony Bellew wasn't retired, he might be bigger than Tony Bellew globally.
Globally, yeah.
Not bigger in the UK or in Liverpool, but I was there on the weekend, obviously, and for the weigh-ins and for the fight, he got a bigger reception than Kelvin Gastelum did.
Yeah.
I would probably say behind Diaz and Masvidal, he got the third highest reception. And when you look at who's on the card, the big names on the card, I would say people from all over the world love Till.
Yeah.
Whereas I would say people from all over the world don't love Callum Smith and don't love Tony Bellew as much.
You thought you were going to touch on this weekend?
Yeah. So obviously we've got another
Massive fight.
Yeah. We've got Danny Roberts.
Yep.
He's on the card from Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
He's going in as the big underdog. Yep. I saw the face-offs yesterday. Didn't look scared. Looked ready. But you could always say to me, I could probably do a face-off with you right now, I wouldn't be scared or anything. But how do you see that fight going?
It's a tough fight.
Oh yeah.
Danny Roberts he's a definition of a dog though in a fight. It's always going to be a dog fight. Never an easy fight fighting Danny Roberts. And when he looks good, and when he wins by decision, he's not always going to showcase a dominant performance. So he kind of fights to the level of his opponents, I'd say. But he's coming off the back of a devastating knockout to Michel Pereira. It was bad to watch. And then before that, obviously we had what happened in London, where he's probably going to win. The ref stopped it. Thought he tapped when he didn't. He was on the way of winning that fight. But then before that, he got knocked out by Nordine Taleb. That was a bad knockout. Tough one. He's fighting a Russian in Russia. He's not going to get any favours with the judges. But he trains with some of the best fighters in the world. Like he's in Florida with Kamaru Usman, Anthony Johnson, Rashad Evans, loads of names. Henry Hooft is the coach there. He definitely has the capabilities to win it, but it's going to be a really tough fight for him.
Do you think if he isn't victorious, do you think that could be his UFC career and possibly nearly over?
Possibly nearly over, yeah. The thing that would keep Danny Robertson around is that he's exciting.
Yeah.
The UFC are known to let people go after 2 losses in a row if they're not exciting. 3 losses in a row, 4 losses in a row. The more likely to keep him on with 4 losses in a row because he is exciting. But it's like, where does he go from here if he loses it? Mm-hmm. If it's an exciting... It all depends on how good the fight is in terms of excitement. If it's an exciting fight, but if he just gets dominated, then maybe it could be the end.
Yeah, I agree.
And anything else to add?
I'll just add that Davy Grant as well, he's from... Not from Liverpool, but he's from Newcastle, Durham. He's fighting on the card as well. If he loses, that's probably the end of his UFC career as well, so... Keep an eye out for that, basically. Yeah,
2 massive fights.
Big fights in Russia for the English. Yeah.
Well, thank you, James, for coming on. Much appreciated. Really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you stay up to date with all our social media channels at MerseySportLive, and of course our website merseysportlive.co.uk. And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.